Welcome back to another day of us streaming the development of our game currently called Dream Machine. I'm Joshua Blair, the CEO and founder of Icebreaker Games. Thank you guys for joining us. So I'm just gonna jump right in real quick after adjusting this mic a little bit. But so last week we were working on setting up the father for our game here, and we kind of mentioned how important the father is, and so we had to go through a lot of different characters and try to figure out exactly who was a good fit and whatnot, and we ultimately decided on this guy here. Now he wasn't 100% ideal. We want him to look like he's a scientist, but he's also got to be capable of doing maintenance on this bunker, and he's definitely got to be older. And then eventually we even have to have him kind of weak, because we're going to suggest that in the story that the player as a kid is going to have to now take over the maintenance of the bunker, and he's going to have to start helping his father out, and eventually he's going to have to even leave the bunker to get supplies. We needed a character that really portrayed that kind of concept. I'm not sure we nailed the head in the on the nail here, but we're going to use this for now. He can be a good placeholder, and if we ever find something better, we can change eventually, and we may be able to even just kind of design our own here. But if we jump into the scene, we also started working on these animations, so to speak. And so I set it up for a keyboard shortcut for right now, just to kind of cycle through them so we can see them live. And so you can see right now he's doing kind of like this working animation on the Dream Machine. If I push Z again, he's actually going to be over here sleeping now. And so this cycles through basically another animation state. And what we're thinking is, when we set up this AI script, which I'm going to try to do today, is he's then going to walk between these animation states. So 1 minute he might be sleeping, next minute he might be working on something and whatnot. We also, if I press C again, we also set up a couple other ones. Another one is him sitting over here on the chair here. He's kind of rocking back and forth a little bit. For maybe he's just listening to the radio or staring off into space. We don't know. But that was another one. And then if I press Z again, we have another state here where he's kind of like looking out into the construction area, and he's got a hammer now too. And I think he's basically just overwhelmed with how much work he has to do. Maybe this is an animation state he doesn't stay in very long. If I press Z again, he now goes over to the typing on the computer here. It's not a perfect animation. You kind of see his hands kind of it's clipping through the laptop, and then you can also tell that the animation is it's not perfectly lined up, so he kind of just jolts back a little bit. So I'm thinking we're going to start off with that. We're going to start off fixing this animation. We're going to add some more animations using Mixamo, which is where I get all my animations from, well, the majority of them. Mixamo is amazing. It's free. You just need I think it's free. You just need an Adobe account. And then, we're going to work on the animations of him walking around to do stuff. So we're going to make this more AI-like driven and make him walk around and do stuff kind of on random. Our goal is just to get him looking good, doing a bunch of stuff today, being active, and kind of going around behind the scenes. Eventually we're going to be able to talk to him. We're going to have dialogue, and we're also going to be able to, we're going to have to interrupt his stages, maybe his walking stage, in order to be able to talk to him. We don't want him to continue to walk around when we talk to him. We probably won't get into dialogue today. Maybe that's something we can do tomorrow, but I'm hoping to really get a good start on his AI script today. So let's jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the father's animation controller. So we had this typing. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to rename. It's actually not a trigger. it's a Boolean value. We're not using these yet, but we will eventually. Right now we're just cycling through these, which isn't going to be the way we want to do it eventually. We're going to use Boolean values instead, I'm pretty sure. It's the way I usually do it. But you'll notice the typing, like I said earlier, it wasn't ideal. So what I'm thinking is I will copy this, and we'll do an inverse version of this typing. And then so what we're gonna do is we're gonna, as soon as he's done doing this first one, he's gonna jump to the inverse version and vice versa. And so I think this will make more of a fluid, natural looking animation type. We do still need, since we're using that cycle, we are still gonna want a cycle trigger from this state, depending on which states he's in. We want to still be able to move on to the next state. And I really just set up that Z for troubleshooting stuff like this. So I can just do it from the keyboard and not have to go through the animator or whatnot. So if we watch him closely, what I'm looking for is that jolt where he jolted back to a different position. I think if we look at this now, I mean, the animator going back and forth pretty fast. But if we look at our scene view, I don't really see any of that jolting anymore. So I think that's pretty good. We probably will at some point want to adjust his hands a little bit. I don't want him to sink down too far into the chair or rise too far above the chair to adjust his arm. I think we're gonna have to adjust his arm itself. Also notice, because he's a low poly Cinti model, he doesn't actually touch the ground, and that's one of the issues that we're gonna have with a lot of these seated animations. But at least in this one, it kind of looks like he puts his feet up on the footstool down here, the shelf down here. So I think that one will work. So so that was just a real quick fix, and so now we can move along. So what I'm thinking now is we go to Mixamo and maybe we look up some more animations here. And I apologize ahead of time. You know, looking through these Mixamo animations, it can be a little daunting. There's a lot of animations, which is a good thing and a bad thing. If we are you know, if we need a bunch of different types of animations, then it's good. But if we're streaming the entire event and I'm just slowly, you know, scanning through these things, it might get a little boring for you guys. So I apologize ahead of time. You can also do a search for these, but I honestly don't know what we're looking for right now. We already did the sleeping one. We did the sitting down one. I do think we're gonna need an eating or drinking one. And we did download a somewhat of a drinking one before. We could take a look at that animation at some point. But it did need some work. So here's another animation we might be able to take. Technically it's using a fax machine, and now I would never have been able to search using a fax machine. I would never have thought of that. But if you look at the animation, especially right here, see how he's sitting here and now he's pushing buttons. This is an animation that I think we can use. We can trim down and then use somewhere. I'm gonna take a look back at our scene again, just real quick. Now, I'm thinking he's got to be able to stand about waist high. And he's going to sit there and press, buttons, so to speak. So it's, it's right around, his waist. Obviously, there's really no buttons in here that he can press. So it's got to be somewhere over here. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe this machine here, it does seem a little tall. And I just wanted to verify we do have that all the way on the ground. We do. But we might be able to have him work on that machine, or he could technically, this is lower. This one might actually work great. Maybe he's punching into this one. Switching back to Mixamo, what we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to trim this animation down here. So we don't need pretty much a lot of this front stuff. Let's take a look at this. And this is one that we're probably gonna want to invert, very similar to that last one we did. It's actually a pretty long animation. And I don't necessarily need him to walk away from the machine at this point. So something like this might work. I do want to take a look, see. He was loading the paper in the fax machine. Obviously we don't need that, but I'm wondering if we don't necessarily, if we could still use that animation and have it represent something else, is basically what I'm trying to get at here, if I could talk. This is a little tedious, you know, just trying to find out exactly what this is. The trim, there's a lot of frames in this particular one, 229 frames. So these numbers here don't actually represent what frames you want to cut out. It's more of like a percentage almost. It can be tricky a little bit. I'm not sure I like that foot movement here. I think it's going to be something like this. That's perfect. We're going to go ahead and click download. Now, on this one, I do change some of these settings. We're going to do FBX for Unity here. We don't need the skin. This skin was just kind of a preview we use. And I leave the other two settings here the same. Go ahead and download this. So now if we go back into our Unity scene here, we do have an animations folder for the father, and all you got to do is just drag that downloaded animation into here. I will go ahead and change the animation type to humanoid, and then we only really need this particular animation here, this using a fax machine, and then once we duplicate that, we can actually delete the rest of this. So you can see we have this kind of weird figure here, but we can actually drag in our father, and that gives us a preview of the animation here. You can see his hands are kind of doing some weird stuff here. That is the one problem that I've noticed using Mixamo with some of the Cinti Studio stuff. I think there's just not a lot of bones in the hands for the Cinti stuff because of the low poly concept. I don't think each individual figure gets a bone. And so right here he's doing some weird stuff. But that stuff we will perfect and we will fine tune, so I can still use this one for now. So what we're going to do is we had this father AI manager here, and we have different positions in which we're having him navigate from. So what I'm going to do is just go to his animator controller, and let's drag that fax machine one on there again, and then we're going to copy and paste it similar like we did before. I'll have the transition go back in between, and this one is an inverse version of it. It's going to smooth that transition out quite a bit. Now this is another working on a device concept. or it is another typing one. We have typing 0. So I'm not even sure what we'll name this. We can change it. We call it DM typing. And like I said, we'll use these values eventually. We're just not doing it right. So all we need is a transition here, and then this is that cycle, so we can test it. That cycle trigger, and we'll need any of these states back to the working on the device, and these are also the cycle triggers. Almost sounds like I'm saying psycho triggers. We don't need these transitions anymore, and so there you have it. Now I'm going to set this animation as the default just for now, because we're going to fine tune his position based off of this animation. So I'm going to go into the scene view. You can see here he is doing some weird typing. And all we got to do is take him and move him generally over into this area. Now, one of the cool things you can do is, since I have him selected, I can go up to game object here. And I can say align with view here. And you can see it kind of teleports him to that exact spot. And so what we can do then is move him into a better position. So you can do it that way, or you can do it, where you can just sit there and move him all the way across the scene, like I'm trying to find, exactly where he should go. Really depends on your preference, which one you think is better. So I tend to do align with view, move to view. A lot of times when, and I will actually be right back. All right, we are back. Sorry about that. So jumping right back into our scene here, you can see we now have our guy kind of awkwardly standing over this keyboard. I'm gonna kind of position him where I think it makes the most sense. Like I said, he is kind of doing some weird stuff with his hand. It looks like his I don't know. It's hard to even tell. But I think, like I was trying to explain before, I think he only has like 2 bones in his hands here with the Cinti Studio, assets here. I think one is his thumb, and then the rest is his hand, all the rest of his fingers. But this particular animation is built or designed, to have that pointer finger. And so that's what he was typing for. So, we'll have to fix that stuff, fine tune it. But for now, I think this will work. I want to see if I move him further down a little bit. I think that's good. And so what I'll do, and I was doing this a lot last week on our last episode, but what we can do is we can just create, actually, all we really need to do is just copy his transform. So I'll just copy this component. Then we can press play and get out of the play mode. And now I can create a new empty game object here, and we'll call this position 6. And this one's kind of iffy. I'm going to say Dream Machine typing. Maybe on this one we do computer typing, just so we know the difference between the two. And then I can just paste that new value, and you can see there it is right there. Now, because of the way we designed the AI manager here, all we really had to do is add that new position, and it's going to automatically handle it in this AI script. We don't have to make any changes here, whatnot. As long as we added it to the animator controller here, then we're good to go. And I'll show you that here in a second. So we'll make the idle his default animation again. And if I press play and we go to the scene view here, you can see he's just in a normal idle animation. We go back to the game, and if I press Z, now he's gonna move to a position, move. I'm gonna keep pressing it until now he's typing here, and then the next one he's right here. Now, you notice there was a delay in the animation. That's because we did not set up the animator controller correctly. So let's go in and fix that real fast. So let's see, we had these cycles just fine, but I think this cycle, let's see. I think the issue is, yeah, I can see it right now. So now that we added this other typing, the typing one, it's going back and forth here, but we don't have anything that goes directly from this state. We need one from each state, so it doesn't have to wait until it gets all the way into this state first before it cycles. Hopefully that makes sense. But we need to be able to trigger this from any one of these animations. Maybe I need to... This is starting to look a little bit crazy, so I'm gonna set this up here. But just like this one, these are the exact same animations, just one's inverse. But you can see we have this cycle trigger available from either one. And that's what we needed to do here. I'm just gonna clean this up just a little bit. Maybe it'll make it easier to make sense. I think that'll work for now. So if we test this out again real fast, press Z until he shows up typing. There we go. Press it one more time and bam. He's now going to be awkwardly typing on this board over here. He's programming the Dream Machine. But the animation, because we did that inverse, looks pretty good. I don't see any kind of real crazy jumping between the animations. Even though we trimmed it where it wasn't a perfect match. I think that works. Weird thing about this Dream Machine, you know, I never really noticed it, but it's like you're typing in this keyboard and you don't actually even see anything, any feedback. There's no graphical interface here. So, but oh well, we don't have to get into huge specifics. I'm gonna go back to Miximo and let's see if we can keep going through here and see if we can find some more stuff to use. As mentioned last week, we're not going to do any of the combat stuff, we're not going to do any of the workout stuff, and we're definitely not doing any of the dancing stuff. I don't think any of that stuff really pertains to our character. I wish there was almost a way to, you know, filter those ones out. But as far as I know, they don't have anything like that. So I'm just kind of looking through. There's definitely a lot of sitting animations. At some point, you know, we could set that up where our seated animation cycles through a bunch of different animations and not just one that's repeated over and over and over again. There is a wheelbarrow one, but I don't think we'll have him do any of that stuff in the scene. Our scene's just a little bit too small for him to really be moving that wheelbarrow around. There is an instrument one, but no, I don't think we can make that work for anything. There is a texting one. But I think it's just a little bit too obvious that he's on some type of phone or tablet there. And yeah, we could give him like a tablet that's maybe remote, kind of connected to the Dream Machine or the generator or something. But I think that just even though we have this Dream Machine that's high technology, I don't want to introduce too much technology into our bunker, if that makes sense. Oh man, just a lot of walking, dancing. I mentioned on our last episode that I might have to just go through this stuff on my own time to kind of identify a bunch of animations that I think I can do, because ultimately scrubbing this could take hours. Maybe if we can just find one more animation that that we can work with, then we could start setting it up where he now walks in between these animations. We did have a sitting here. He's kind of carrying something here. Now, I mean, that would be cool, but we would have to do some pretty crazy stuff. We would have to set it up where he's... This one's kind of cool. Where he's carrying a box and then moving from point A to point B, and he's actually dropping that box. You know, moving boxes around, kind of organizing. I think we can work with this one. If we go back to scene here, trying to think what this could be. You know, it could be technically something with the generator. You know, maybe he's kind of reaching back behind something to fix it. I mean, technically he could be reaching back here somewhere to be fixing something. But it looks like he has, you know, like limited space. It's kind of what it looks like to me. Maybe we can make this work somehow with the generator. I'm going to go ahead and download it. The same settings as before, but I'm not going to trim it at all, which is nice. We're getting a whole 145 frames here. And this is the new animation. I'll change that to humanoid. We'll duplicate this one here and go ahead and this one. Now, if we look at this, you can see he's kind of reaching back in there. Pretty cool. Go ahead and pull that animation here. All we need is just the cycle here. Of course, we do need it from both states again, just like last time. And then we'll have this transition back to the working device with the same cycle trigger as well. So now we no longer need these ones. And we just needed that one. Alright. Let's go ahead and make this the default layer so we can figure out his positioning. And let's take a look at this. So we could have mirrored the animation. I forgot he's over here. So notice how he's looking to his left here. And I also forgot, we want to set this rummaging up to loop as well. But notice how he's reaching to his left. We can also set it up if we wanted him to reach to his right as well. I'm not exactly sure, what we're gonna do with this guy yet. So I do think we should, set him up somewhat close to where we can access this through the animation just fine. Or through the nav mesh. What I'm thinking is, if we're setting up where he can walk in between these animation, we're going to want to set it up where he can easily get to it. The nav mesh is going to auto bake, and yeah, we can do some fine tuning of it, but in general, we don't necessarily want to make it too complicated. I don't really want him really moving all the way back here. I'm thinking somewhere close like this would be ideal. You can see he is kind of bracing himself with his hand here, but he is clipping. This is going to be just a little bit difficult to really fine tune here. Basically, he's reaching back, trying to fix something with the generator. Yeah, we got some clipping of his hand here going in and out of the generator. See that? I don't know if we need to be, too accurate here. I guess technically I could have trimmed it down where his hand doesn't move as much. We could also mirror it so he goes back behind this corner too, but I think either way he's gonna clip into stuff, so I think this one's gonna be fine. I think we'll make this one work for now. I'll go ahead and copy the transform component again. And we'll go ahead and create another empty. We got position 7 now. And I'll just call it GenFix. And let's paste that new component values here. And so now I think we're actually good to just test this out. I'm going to press Z a bunch of times until he's at here. Now we know one more position and he should be at the jet. Yep, there he is. He is kind of floating a little bit. I guess I didn't notice that. Let's fine tune that a little bit here. We'll go into the scene view. I think we need to rotate him back a little bit. He can definitely stand on his toes. I'm okay with that. I think I've done that quite a few times working on something. Definitely looks like he's floating though. I think that looks better. I'll go ahead and copy this component. Now I want to take a look at this animation here. We can bake a couple things into the pose, into this animation here. So if we look down at like his feet, we were to, let's say, bake this Y into the position, and we base it off of his feet at the very start. Now you notice his feet aren't really coming up off the ground too much. Let's take a look again. Actually, I didn't even update that position. Do that real fast. Now let's take. Not too bad. I think that baking definitely is going to be the preferred way to go, so I like that one. Alright, so now we have 7 positions in which he's going to at least cycle through, right? I mean, we can cycle through using the cheat, the button here, but we're going to want him to cycle through that on his own. And so what we're going to have to do, one is we're going to have to set up him as a nav mesh agent. So I'm going to go over here to nav mesh, or sorry, the navigation here. And I'm going to look at a couple different things here. So we have this agent radius, size, height, all that good stuff. This, for the most part, comes with this standard setting here. But this is what's going to limit where he can get in and where he can get out, where he can move, where he can't move. If we go ahead and click bake on this, doesn't appear to want to do too much here. Let's take a look. I want to make sure. Hey, Andre's here. Hey, how's it going? It's another day, right? How you doing? Right now we are working on the nav mesh agent for the father. We started setting him up last week, and we have him cycle through a bunch of animations currently just for testing purposes. But we're really going to fine-tune his AI script that's going to have him walk around the scene and go from position to position on his own without us having to do it. So in order to do that, we're going to set up his nav mesh agent and go ahead and bake this scene here and try to get that set up. So with the father here, we're going to go ahead and add that nav mesh agent here. Nice. So I'm assuming, did you start a project of your own? Is that Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're making good progress. Did you start a new project on Unity or did you start it on Unreal? Did you decide on that one? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and select all of this flooring here, and I'm gonna go ahead and mark this all static. None of this flooring is gonna move. I'm also gonna do the same thing with the walls. As long as we didn't put any of those doors in here, I'm gonna go ahead and mark all this stuff static as well. All right, now go ahead and go back to navigation here. And let's see, if we go ahead and bake this now, turn on gizmos, you can see. Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, I'd love to hear about it sometime. You should send me a link or send me your info. I'll definitely take a look. I love seeing new projects, love seeing new ideas. You know, I'm a huge fan of just progress and pushing games to the limit, so I'd love to take a look sometime. But if you can see now that I've baked this navigation mesh here, this nav mesh, you can see anywhere that's blue, the character his father could technically walk to. But notice how there's obstacles here that aren't being registered. So like he could technically walk through or over these crates here. There's nothing being cut out of the nav mesh. So we could either do this a couple different ways. We can say, hey, this is a nav mesh obstacle, and we could define it in that regard. Or we can mark all these objects static as well. And when you mark something static, let's take a look at this wall here. There's a drop down here, and so when you mark it static, everything gets selected. But one of the big ones, especially the one that we're working on right now, is this navigation static. This is going to go ahead and tell that nav mesh that this item is never going to move, and we need to consider it with the nav mesh. So if we start with just something that's simple here, for example, like this locker, we were going to go ahead and check the nav mesh. Oh, you know, this one actually doesn't look too bad. Let's start on maybe something like this. This one is a huge hole. Yeah, exactly. So Andre kind of mentioned it a little bit better, I think. Basically, the nav mesh agent here, if he was going to try to move from where he's at to the other side of this crate, according to the nav mesh, he should be able to create a path that goes directly from A to B over here. But because this is away, it does still have a collider, so he would be trying to get through here, and he would hit this collider, and if this collider didn't have a good slope, he wouldn't be able to climb over it. So if the slope was too high, he would just kind of run into it, and he'd kind of get lost. Andre asked if there was a tick box for effects navigation. It's kind of that concept, and that's what I was just saying. Up here in the static concept, we can display this navigation static. And so with this object here, we're going to go ahead and test that out. And so I'm going to go ahead and select, I'm actually going to select the entire thing as static, which is fine because we're never going to move this thing. And now if we go back to the navigation here and we rebake it, watch what happens. Bam. This now navigation static object is now cutting a hole in the nav mesh agent, or nav mesh area here. And so now the player knows he can't, or not the player, sorry, the father. Man, I can't talk. Now the father knows he can't walk straight across here. He'd have to walk around it. Now you will notice there is some little bit of a tiny area, and this is because of what we defined as our max slope and our max step height right here. So technically, the father, if we told him to move over to this position and he wanted to take the most direct route, he could technically step on top of this box. And for now, I'll allow it. We'll have to see what that really looks like, and if we have to redefine these mesh colliders, or redefine some of his walkable area, we can also redefine his radius, whatnot, and say, hey, you can't get into these tight spaces, or maybe even the opposite, you can get in these. So the reason why I set up our scene in static versus dynamic is for this exact concept here. So now pretty much everything that lies under this empty game object, which I use almost like a folder for organization, everything underneath here now, I'm pretty much certain that is going to be static. Now, if we kind of look at some of this stuff, every single time I've ever done this, I still accidentally mark something static that shouldn't be. It happens every time. But for the most part, we are going to want the majority of this stuff marked static. Now, it's weird because we do have some stuff being highlighted here in the scene. It's kind of weird. But we marked all of the floors. We marked all of the walls. Definitely the pipes. We can mark those static. Go ahead and change everything. The hallway, we do have some stuff here. Pretty sure all that's fine. I'll mark all that static. Even the lights can be marked static, really, because you're not going to Yeah, exactly. Like Andre was saying, you know these objects aren't gonna move, and marking them static is, like he said too, is better overall on performance. So, um, and so that's just a habit that I tend to do is I try to immediately when I create the scenes kind of start thinking about what's static, what's dynamic, what's moving, what's not moving. And then if we miss mark any of these, it's fine. We can always just say, oh wait a minute, we need to open that door, or we need to move that item. You can go ahead and just uncheck static and then rebake the nav mesh in it, and everything's fixed. So now that we've marked a bunch of this stuff static, let's go ahead and take a look at our navigation here, and we'll rebake it. Turn on gizmos, and so now let's take a look. So it doesn't look like some of this stuff got marked. Let's take a look where that is at. Okay, we didn't mark everything still. We missed a few. That's a good question, Andre. He asked, is the nav mesh only bakeable, or is there anything real time? I want to say I almost always bake it. I haven't really found a need for doing it in real time, but I've seen other people do it, so I know there's a way to do it. I don't know if it requires creating your own script or downloading something from Unity Asset Store or something, but there is a way to do it, and I've seen it done. I just never had to. Hopefully that answered your question. All right, so we didn't select a lot of these other individual rooms here. Now, if we go back and rebake this, there we go. See, now we have quite a bit more concept here, and you can see the paths in which he can take now are a little bit more limited, and that's what we want. We don't want him to try to go too crazy, do things that are too nuts, that don't make sense for the AI. In this particular instance, if we wanted him to go over here, he might have a hard time doing it. You know, just because we only have this little bit of a sliver that's available. But the reasons for a lot of this is just because of the radius, the agent radius that we've defined here. And so if you feel like you need a little bit more space in your scene, you can always decrease this radius. If we look at him himself, that circle is his radius. So you can tell it's quite a bit larger than the actual character. Yeah, I think that's Andre said the NPC avoidance concept, and that's where I think I've seen it done before too. Is just constantly having certain items that are moving. I've actually, now that I think about it, I think I've actually done it myself too. It's just been a while. I had a project, and I think I mentioned this in an earlier stream, where we were moving objects in the scene, and they were able to knock around the players, but we also needed them to knock around the NPCs or the enemies, and so we needed it to, once that item moved to a new location, we needed to update that nav mesh. And I can't remember exactly what the solution was that we came up with. I don't know if it was just something that was constantly updating the nav mesh, or if we did it at certain times. I can't remember, to tell you the truth. But yeah, there's definitely a way to do it for sure. I don't think we need to do that in this particular instance though. But you can see here's a good example. Because of the way we designed this scene, he doesn't actually have enough space to get from point A to point B if he needs to go to the bathroom. That would be kind of difficult for him. He would never be able to go in there, never be able to use the restroom. But that's stuff that we can fine tune if we need to. We can make some adjustments to his information or the room's information and say, okay, now you can get there. But I'm just kind of taking a look. This looks fine. It needs to be connected. We would, if for example, this particular area here, we could do it a couple different ways. We could actually just go in and fix this. I think this particular item here is also marked static, but maybe we don't need it to. This is just a curtain here. And so we could maybe remove this from navigation static and then rebake it if we wanted to. There is also a way to make it where the AI can jump from one part of the nav mesh to another as long as it's within a different distance. Think about like jumping from platform to platform. There is no nav mesh agent or nav mesh area in between the platforms, but an AI should be able to still jump from the platform to platform. Those types of concepts, they are doable. They are things that we do. But I'm not sure, like I said, again, if we necessarily need that in this particular scene. As of right now, we don't even have an animation for him in the bathroom, which I guess could be a good thing. I don't know. Maybe we want an animation where he's using the toilet or washing his hands or something. I don't know. Or maybe he's in there fixing this thing because this thing needs some help, needs some maintenance. But as of right now, we don't have that, so I'm not too worried about it. But I will say I am going to adjust his radius, and so you can tell, how big this thing sticks out. We're gonna go ahead and adjust this so that it's only the size of his body. We're also going to adjust the height a little bit here. We're gonna make this just a little bit more accurate here, and then we're going to go back to the nav mesh and rebake this again. And I didn't really notice much of a change here. That's interesting. We should have had a little bit more room here. Oh, that's because our bake here is still based off of the agent radiance of the 0.5. Yeah, and so the arms do, depending on his animation, they will probably hang down a little bit. Maybe Andre's saying maybe we should account for the arms, essentially. So we could technically go just a little bit wider. Maybe we do 0.3 here. And so then on the navigation here, we want to change this to 0.3 as well. And that's why it didn't change when we rebaked it. Now you can see, now he can fit, he's skinnier now. He can fit through a lot more stuff. Every once in a while you'll see these little holes in the nav mesh agent. I'm not exactly sure why that happens. But I haven't seen, and maybe we'll test this out, but I haven't really seen an instance where he is going to walk around these holes. I think it's just kind of just, it looks like a hole, but it's not really a hole, so to speak. But I think now that we've made him skinnier, I mean, we have a lot more access to areas he can go to. Another thing I wanted to adjust real quick is this right here. Notice somehow on this particular object, the nav mesh is on top of there for whatever reason. Now he's never going to be able to get up there. He's never going to be able to climb up there, jump up there, or anything like that. But you can avoid this type of stuff if you wanted to, and you could say this is a nav mesh obstacle here. And so it's going to create standard box obstacle, and then we can say this carve right here. And so now this would carve a hole out of the nav mesh. We rebake this. Okay. Weird. Yeah, Z fighting. Yeah. I think that's a good example, Andre. Sorry. Trying to figure this out. This nav mesh obstacle should be working here, but it's not. I'm not too worried about it right now. But this is a good example of a component here that we were talking about a little bit earlier ago. If you had this nav mesh obstacle on a NPC, and let's say we changed it to like the capsule form, this nav mesh obstacle could technically move, and it could also still carve out a hole in the nav mesh. And so we would just uncheck this, like it's not just stationary, it is moving, and you can see there is a move threshold and whatnot. That's one way to do that. Let's say, for example, if we had these doors constantly opening and closing, maybe that's something that we would consider. But if we move right along, so now we pretty much have a pretty good nav mesh setup. And so our goal is, we have these positions here, position 1 through 7. We would need to say, hey, move to position 1, move to position 2, so on and so forth. Yeah, it might be the same as Unreal. I honestly have not ever gotten to the AI navigation type stuff in Unreal. I never made it that far, so I've always been curious how it works, but never... I think I quit on Unreal after only a few weeks. Now we're gonna basically have to go into the Playmaker scripting here, and we're gonna have to change this a little bit, because we're now gonna say, hey, you're an nav mesh agent, and I want you to move from point A to point B, and I want you to do it in the shortest path possible, so to speak. So I'm gonna go ahead and just create a state here so we can take a look. And if we look at the actions here and we type in nav mesh, there's really only this animator synchronizer, and I don't think I've ever used it. That's crazy. So Andre was saying he's doing a lot of the same stuff in his project right now. That's crazy. It's fun stuff though. I mean, AI is the fun stuff. I mean, when you really dive into the enemies of a game or the NPCs of the game, I tend to I love to see how this works, and it really, to me, it turns a game, a normal kind of boring game, it turns it alive. I mean, think about if we had zombies moving around outside once we come out of the bunker. I mean, that just completely changes the game. So AI, I think, is just a huge spot, a fun spot to get into, and it's really just a big part of your game. It's a milestone to me. So what I was saying is, there's not a whole lot of built-in actions for the nav mesh inside Playmaker. So there's a couple different things you can do. You can either create this script by hand, which I recommend if you have that type of knowledge, you could do that. It does take a little while, but we have a couple different options available. We have obviously ChatGPT, which we've used in previous episodes, but I'm not necessarily sure that that's something that we need to do, because what I like to do beforehand is I like to go ahead and go over to the Playmaker ecosystem. And so this is something that you download differently or separately from Playmaker, but I recommend it highly. So I'm just going to type in nav mesh. Oh, it helps if you spell it correctly. That's funny. It's saying we have a limit on our request per minute, even though we haven't used it in a long time. Let's wait a second on that. Yeah, I agree, Andre. The bar, is set high for for AI. I mean, if you have janky AI, it can ruin a game for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, but at the same time, sometimes it gets negative publicity. I can't remember who I was talking to this about, but like Skyrim, for example, anytime you see janky AI and janky NPCs in Skyrim, I swear there's some type of meme or TikTok video or something, and so people have learned a lot about Skyrim just from all the janky stuff it's done too. Now that's not something I really want to do, but it may happen at some point. But yeah, I don't know why our ecosystem is doing that. Let's take a look, see if it works now. There we go. So just doing a search through the ecosystem for NavMesh in Playmaker. This is what's really cool. I love this. These are all Unity C# scripts that were just created in the form of an action for Playmaker. And so these are all completely free. You can just, all you have to do is click Git, and it installs that script or that action on your computer into your project. And so if you can use any of these things. They're, like I said, they're completely free. It's just built in. So I definitely recommend this. This also saves a lot of time trying to go to ChatGPT and explain everything you need to do. Yeah, ChatGPT is fast, but maybe the explaining process, typing process is fast or slow. I don't know. But we have this option, so I always try to use this first. So you can see NavMesh agent move to, or NavMesh agent find closest point. So we have some options here, but I think if we go ahead and just get this NavMesh agent to, we might be able to get that to work. There's also this package here, which is just called pathfinding. I think if this NavMesh agent move to isn't going to work for us, then I might look at this pathfinding package. I want to say I've downloaded it before. It just seems pretty familiar. And you can see it automatically compiled, and automatically put it where it needs to go. And I really don't have to do anything else besides what we did right there. Yep, we will get some errors here, but they are clearable. That happens. I don't think it's anything too alarming. If for some reason it's an error that doesn't clear, well, now, I mean, I don't think I've ever experienced that with the ecosystem, but that essentially says, hey, there's something wrong with that particular script. Maybe it's outdated, maybe they didn't do a good job, but anything like that I haven't even seen make it to the ecosystem. But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. Now, if we go back into, let's go back to our father AI script here and go back to Playmaker. Now, if we type in NavMesh, you can see we have this new NavMesh agent move to. So I can just double click on that, and here we go. We already have the action. It comes with all this really nice stuff. It tells you what you need, all of that good stuff, and it's just so simple. I mean, we can try to calculate how much time I just saved doing this, but I mean, it's unbelievable, and that's why I really love Playmaker. It's just so much stuff that you don't have to recreate. You can just drag into your scene, essentially. And I'm all about, especially if you're doing individual projects, if you're a solo team solo developer, whatever you want to call it, saving time is ideal here. Sure. I am going to drag in the reference because it does require a NavMesh agent component. But you can see we now say, hey, just move this character to this position. And we can even click here and we can say, hey, here's the values, or we can just click here and actually say, hey, move to position 1. And then we can also keep in mind we don't actually have a walking animation yet. So he's just gonna kind of drag all the way there. We're gonna have to assign him some animations for this, but um, he should now, as soon as we start, he should now find that position, find the path to it, and then move to that position. We can also have an offset here and whatnot. We can also do a certain event. Like, hey, once you get there, now go to state 2. So if we test this out, if we take a look at this, you can see he's already moving, but he found a path, and he's moving through there, and now he's moved all the way to position 1. I mean, 1, he looks like a zombie with his arms out like that. 2, you noticed he did clip through some stuff. He is clipping, or was clipping, through the Dream Machine. I think the Dream Machine we had marked as dynamic since we have animations for opening and closing. But you can see just that one Playmaker script here. Essentially, yeah, he's like a ghost. Essentially, did a pretty good job. I mean, all we did was just, add that one thing, press play, and then take a look and watch it again. There he comes. Man, that's awesome. So now our goal is to fine-tune that process. We're going to want to slow him down. We're going to want to get him a walking animation and whatnot, and so we're going to try to get this looking as natural as possible. But yeah, you can see the nav mesh itself is working. He knew to walk down this hallway, and he knew to walk through the doors. I mean, that all kind of was just built in, ready to go. We didn't have to tell him anything. And he found a way to go. I forgot, position 1 probably wasn't the best to initially test this because it was all the way in this corner here. And if we looked at the nav mesh itself, I mean, he has just a very skinny position here to get to. And he knew he couldn't get through it going this way. There was no connection. He knew to come all the way here. So the nav mesh is doing exactly what we wanted to. We just need to fine tune it. We need to perfect it a little bit more. I will say I wish the speed was built into the nav mesh agent here. But we should be able to still fine tune this to some extent. Let's take a look here. So first, let's go into his animator. We did have that rummaging set as the default. We don't want that. We want the idle. And then we're also going to create a new Boolean value over here, and we're going to call this is moving. And so we had all these cycles just for testing. We're now going to slowly get rid of all of that because we don't need to test it through pressing a button. We now want him to move from point A to point B. So essentially we're going to create a new state. And it's going to be, we have a lot of walking animations. You can see this is him walking with something in his hand, like tools. He's actually an armed. This is him walking when he injures himself. But we're going to want kind of an unarmed walking animation. There's got to be one. Oh, there's more. Here we go. Relax walk. We don't want to walk backwards. He's not drunk. Although he kind of looks like Johnny Depp there a little bit. Let's see. Walk forward. There we go. Man, it's fast, but I think that's the one. I think that's the one that we're gonna use here. Oh, here's a walk slow. Let's try this one. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do this, guys. I mean, for real, you can create a speed value, and you can blend between a slow walk and a fast walk based off of that speed value. I mean, we can do a lot of different stuff here. Here's a slow drunk one. I don't know why I always like the drunk animations. I usually try to find a way. I worked on this pirate game, and I love to incorporate all the drunk animations into that game. But I always try to find a way to incorporate that into a game if I can. Although, I don't know if that's one we're gonna include into this game or not. I mean, it would be kind of, I guess, I don't know if it'd be funny, sad, depressing, or what, but if the poor guy, the poor kid comes back to the bunker all the time and his father's drunk. I don't know. You can tell me, sad, depressing, or funny. Which one? Alright, so we do have this walk animation here. And so we're going to set a transition. We're going to say now is walking is true. Oop, not is sitting. We're going to say is moving. Maybe we rename this actually, now that I think about it. Be a little bit more precise. Call this is walking. We have is walking is true. We do not need the exit title time now since we have this. And so he's gonna go from just your standard idle to, hey, I'm now moving forward. Andre said maybe the kid can get wasted after his first traumatic dream. As funny as that is to me, I don't know if it's something we should have this potential 9-year-old getting drunk. I mean, I don't know. Might get some complaints on that one, but it is funny. All right, so we created this new walk slow, and then we can go ahead and create a new transition back and say, hey, once is walking is false, we're gonna head back to this idle state here. And so now if we go back to Playmaker, not only do we want to have the nav mesh agent move, we're going to also want to change that Boolean value. So we're going to set the animator bool here. It's on the actual player. So since we're dragging in these references, I'm going to go ahead and mark this state blue. That's just for me. That's the way that I track these things. You guys can do this any way you want. I have a nice scheme that I have a different color represents everything. So, and then we have the parameter here is walking, and we're going to check that value to true. Now, obviously, once he gets to his position here, we fired off state 2. We're going to say, hey, once you're there, the value is now false. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, you know, he's as a kid, I mean, if he's killing zombies, he should almost be allowed to, right? But all right, let's test this out here. I haven't named these states yet. I did that intentionally. And that's just because I want to fine tune exactly what it's going to look like, and then we'll name it. But if we take a look at this now, and we go to the scene view, there we go. You can see he's doing the walk animation now, at least. And now once he's got there, yeah, I know you're kidding, Andre. I know it's all in fun. You can see he walked while he was moving, and then he also once he got to his location, he stopped. He's now in that idle animation. Of course, the next thing we would say is, hey, once you get to position 1, we're gonna need you to we're going to need you to face the right direction. We're going to need you to do that animation associated with position. And then we would then say after a certain amount of time, we could do it randomly. We don't need to, have this on a perfect timer. But we could say randomly between 10 seconds and 20 seconds, move to position. Move to position 2. We can do that however we want. But I am curious how we're going to set up the speed of the player himself here. And so what I'm thinking is we just adjust it here with the nav mesh agent. We're going to want to match that speed to the animation. So I'm thinking for now we'll just start with a position or a speed of 1. We'll go ahead and take a look at this in the scene view, and then we can maybe fine tune it. You can see that actually looks pretty accurate. I mean, I don't know what you guys think here, but speed 1 looks fairly good. I mean, he's not excited to go to work, so to speak. But he's going there, But yeah, I like it too. I think speed 1 was a good guess right off the bat. So that fixed that pretty easily. We can also all right, yep, thanks for coming, thanks for showing up, guys. Andre, see you next time. What was I doing? Oh, we actually have events. I didn't notice that. For the walk slow animation here, if we take a look at that, there is actual events built in for left foot and right foot. It's a good way to use that to make sounds. So if he's walking on like metal or concrete or ground, soil, sand, you name it, you can have this trigger a sound based off his left foot and his right foot. We will use that eventually. I'm glad it's already built into the animation. That's actually pretty cool. All right, so we did get that walking good. I do want to adjust this particular door here. And so what we're gonna do here, because I need this to be pretty accurate, the way that he moves through this door. What I'm gonna do is this particular item here is going to be dynamic, but this one is going to be static. I'm only gonna do this object alone and not do this object. So if we look at this in the game view, I should still be able to close the door here. But now he walks a little bit more accurately through the door on that one, but not on that one. Also notice how I can walk through him. We're gonna want to set up some kind of collider for him as well. Also, this door is a good example of a game object that's going to be potentially moving, and we needed to adjust the nav mesh accordingly. It does create a very complex problem. So if we say that the door is shut and now we need it to adjust the nav mesh, and the father is moving from point A to point B, and point B is on the other side of the door, we would need it to say, hey, open that door. And so we'd have to build that into his AI script. We need to say, hey, I know you can get there, get as close as you can, or go to this location and now open the door and then go the rest of the way. I know that sounds simple in just talking terms, but as far as programming and as far as AI goes, that's actually a pretty complicated concept. But we're going to try to tackle it, because we want this guy to be accurate. We want this AI to look pretty decent. We're going to get there. Okay? But for now, I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same concept with this guy here. I mark him static, but leave the door itself, the hinge, dynamic. And so let's look at some of the other concepts here. I think we did the exact same thing. We'll do the exact same thing with the fridge. Let's see. I think this table, yeah, the table got marked static, so we don't need to mark the TV. Some of these cabinets, I think, will need to be marked. Oh yeah, the parts washers over here. Tool cabinet. Basically, I think most of these are going to need to be. Maybe not the button. We don't really need the button to be marked. And we'll do just this object. If we look at the nav mesh here again, go ahead and rebake that. Should be good. Take a look. To go into the scene view here. I want to see the father. How he looks here. Goes through that pretty good, and still, maybe we forgot to do this one. Maybe. Still cutting through this door. Nope, we did mark this navigation static. Marked door dynamic here. Interesting. I don't know. Not sure what's going on at that point. Seemed like it was working just fine for this door. But he is clipping through that door. All right, let's look at a couple things. One, let's go ahead and create a collider for this guy. There's a bunch of different types of colliders. I think in general, a capsule collider is used for characters. I think that's just kind of the standard, industry standard. You can adjust it here so that it's a little bit more accurate. We want it about the same size as the nav mesh agent, and it always kind of comes a little bit too low, so I always have to adjust it there. And what I don't want is the collider, the capsule collider, to start clipping with the floor and start messing up with his animations here. Maybe it was like that before, but I don't want him to clip in the thing here. It does still magically go through there. And if we go back to the game view, can I Can I clip into him? No, I can't. Now I can give him a hug. Not actually go through his body here. Good. All right, so we're fixing one things at a time, right? All right. Another thing. Let's see. And I don't know what is going on with this door. It's kind of tripping me out. We do have a lot of box colliders here. It is marked static. Not sure. I'll have to look into that one. That is some weird behavior. But let's move right along. I don't want to spend too much time on that. So we have now the move to concept here. Now, I will say we don't necessarily normally want that to be the first state. You're saying like as soon as the scene starts, we want him to immediately move to position 1. Most likely that's not going to be it. Most likely we're going to want to have him start somewhere, sitting down. It's going to be a certain position in the story that's going to say, okay, now you can get up and move around. We don't always want him in this constant moving around, like navigating state. So we're going to eventually have something that drives this AI script. But for now, we're going to set it up, at least for testing purposes, we're going to set it up this way. But I just want you guys to know that eventually we're going to fine-tune this process. We're going to keep adding to the script a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and name this state now move 2. And then I'm going to say call this stop for now. And this one should be blue too because we dragged in this reference. So we stopped, and we can say how do we want to do this? We're going to go ahead and set this as the start state still, since it's the initialization. And then so now we have this idle state, but instead we're going to do a wait. And this is where we would do random. You can do a random wait, which is nice. But we're going to just say randomly between 0 and 1, which is fine for now. We're going to want to speed this up for testing purposes. So we don't need this cycle no more. I'm going to go ahead and mark this red here. And so basically as soon as it's done initializing, we're going to go to this wait. And then once the wait is completed, we're going to now say, hey, move to this position. And I'm just debating how we can do this where we can still keep our script, where we can just keep adding more and more positions later on. So in order to do that, we do need this array get next here. I think actually we're gonna have to let me Control Z this real quick. I want to see. Okay. This was part of the loop here, that's fine. Then we will still do this red. We will do a weight here randomly. And then we're going to go ahead and set this down here. But then once the position is found, we're going to go ahead and now move to that position. And so this is now going to be marked as the child. Okay. We'll have to test this out, of course. Oh, you're back. Welcome back. That was quick. So we're still just we're working on the AI scripts here some more still. So you didn't miss much. But I want to, of course, this is going to change a million times probably, but I want to, wow. Yeah, that's pretty fast. I don't know what time zone you're in, but it's still early for us. So in general, we're going to say, hey, still, I want you to get all these positions first in this script, but then eventually you're going to select one of these positions based off of the index. And then we're going to say, hey, now move to this crowd is what we're calling it right now. And then once you get there, we're going to stop. But I want to see where we actually, this is what I'm looking for right here. This, oh, nice, dude. I love Italy. I'm a huge fan. I visited there a couple years back. We went to Rome. We went to Venice. We went to a couple other places down south. But yeah, amazing country, very beautiful. So we don't need that animation trigger no more. That was just for testing purposes. Right? But we are going to need to do something once he gets to that position. We're going to say, hey, now you're doing something else. Right? If we just take a look. Hopefully it's not too loud, but yeah, this is a real intense scene here. So now we had it built. There we go. That wasn't what we're looking for. Look at it again real fast. All right. Yeah, so it's essentially not doing what we wanted to. Yeah. All right, let's take a look. We're gonna have to troubleshoot this a little bit. So with this initialization, this is all just fine. And then we have this random weight, which we'll adjust eventually. Right now, we just have it from 0 to 1 second. Because for testing, I don't want to sit and have to wait over and over and over again. And then once it's done waiting, we're gonna get the index 0 of the rotation and the position, but we don't want it to set those positions just yet. So, how am I gonna do this? Let's actually create an array, another array of game objects here. And I'll call this position game object. We probably could have done this the first time around too. And so now in this initialization concept, we're going to see how we're getting the children of the father. We're gonna see how we're also getting the position and rotation, and we're adding the position and rotation to these arrays. We're also just gonna array add the game object itself. To this new array we just made. I'm gonna go ahead and just delete this transition for right now, so you can see what this looks like. Now, if we go back into this Playmaker script, we now have this array, and you can see all the positions now are in here. Of course, we still have, these are the actual game objects. We still have the actual positions of those game objects, and we have the angles of those game objects as well. It's weird though that we only, oh, that's just the current one. This one isn't the array of them. This was just the very last one that I got. But you can say, so we have the array. Yeah, I think streaming while game deving is probably, obviously I didn't come up with the idea, but I think it's a great idea. I think it's one, it connects you with your audience, and you've already helped me out a lot during this stream. And then two, it gives you feedback, gets people excited about your project, creates almost the job-like necessity of doing it. I don't want to let you guys down and just not show up to work one day. Although I'm sure you probably wouldn't get too hard on me, but you know, that's just something that I think is a good idea. And especially with indie game development, I think the biggest issue these days with indie game dev isn't about creating the project. It's about getting people into your project, getting people excited about your project, getting your project out there for the world to see. Gone is the days where we would just hide our projects and not tell anybody about it because we didn't want people stealing it or whatever. You know, those days are long gone. Now you just come out with your idea, you show the world your idea, and you get everybody excited about it. So when you officially launch, like, then everybody's ready. Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm glad you're here. I really am. It definitely helps, and I think if you're thinking about doing the same thing, I think you should. And if you let me know your info, maybe I'll be able to follow you at some point. Where was I? Okay, so yeah, so it created that array that we want just fine, and so now as soon as the wait time is over, we're gonna say, hey, let's create a new state, and we'll call this set EOS and rotation. But we're gonna basically say, hey, go to this next location, but you're gonna do it based off of the index value. And let's just cut these out, paste those in here. And so let's see. I do want to do another array get. I feel like I'm confusing myself here. I'm at the same time of doing this, I'm like contemplating if there's better ways to do this. And I always feel like there is. But let's call this game object. And we'll label that index here. So now, getting the position, getting a rotation from index 0. And then we want it to now, I think we could still leave this reset just fine. We are going to want to do some int compare stuff here soon, but let's for now drag that out of the way. Now we're going to say, hey, once you're finished getting the position and the rotation and this game object of our next target, we now want you to move to that target. So I'm going to change this one to game object. Maybe we rename that again. Position game object, just like the array, but it's the actual object. It's that's fine. But so that's our target. We're gonna move to that location. We're gonna change the animation. But once we get there, we're going to stop. But we're also going to set the position. Hopefully this isn't too confusing for you guys, but it's almost confusing. Almost confusing myself. Yeah. Yeah, I guess like Andre was saying, there's really no right way, because there's so many different ways to achieve the same results. You know, it's just something that I do. Sometimes I'm just like, I might spend too much time thinking, man, there's a better way to do this. Let me find out what it is. But in general, as long as we get the same results and it doesn't look like a complete mess and it's not too taxing on the system, then I think, yeah, I think you're right. I think if it works, it works. But so I think we're getting there. I mean, I think this is going to be just fine once I finish fine-tuning it. And I want to make this work no matter how many extra positions and animations that we apply. That's the big issue here. Because I want to be able to apply maybe another 10 positions, and I don't want to have to adjust the script every So once we get there, we're going to go ahead and set the position and rotation. We're going to fine-tune him actually getting to that spot. And then, of course, we'll repeat the process and whatnot, but I think this is going to be a good play testing event here. So you can see he's in that animation. Oh, it helps if you move to the next the next state. That definitely helps. Try that again here. So you can see he's now got his position 1. He's decided he's moving to there now. You can see Andre, we still have problems with this door for some reason. Kind of a weird behavior, but he's still, not only is he clipping through there, he's that door is labeled static, navigation static. It shouldn't be like that. You can see he got there. It set its position rotation correctly, and then of course now the next thing would be to do the proper animation. One thing I do want to take a look at real fast, I feel like, yeah, I thought so. There was an exit time here, and we don't want that. We want him to completely stop once he gets there. We don't want him to wait till he finishes animation cycle there. All right, so the tricky thing, and we're making good progress here. Let's clean this up just a little tiny bit. Why I talk your guys' ear offs here. We don't need that no more. The tricky thing is we want him to do this animation based off of the index here. So the index value technically drives what animation to do. So remember how earlier I was saying, hey, we're going to use these Boolean values? I think it is correct, and I think that's why it's kind of tripping me out here. Because if we look at this door, this is the problem here. We do have it marked navigation static. The door itself is dynamic because we're going to open and shut that. But if we look at the colliders too, we do have a box collider there. And the father now has a capsule collider on him, so that way the player can't walk through him. And this is exactly the same for each door. This door is exactly the same. But because of the way his pathing goes, he takes the shortcut of walking through this area. If we look at the actual the nav mesh here, you can see there is just the slightest bit of blue right there that causes this clipping. So we could technically increase the agent radius, I think, maybe, but I wish I could. Gotta be a way that I can adjust this this object a little bit more. Just the object itself. I don't know if I want to maybe pull out the box collider a little bit more. I'm not sure. But I said I was gonna worry about that a little bit more later. Try to get this fine-tuned here. So if we go back to Playmaker, what I was saying is, no, you're good, Andre. And to answer your question, is there a way to use the collisions polygons as the collider itself? I think what you're talking about is what's called, at least in Unity, is called a mesh collider. And the issue with the mesh collider, with the way that the Cinti Studio assets are, and think about this particular model, a mesh collider would take up the entire concept of the door, and so we wouldn't have a nice hole to walk through. Unfortunately, mesh colliders, that's just the way that they work. They try their hardest to look at the actual mesh, but they are not going to determine, where there should be holes and where there shouldn't be. Now, there is more accurate mesh collider solutions out there. They cost money, and maybe I should invest in one eventually, or you can write your own. But in the time being, I just set up those box colliders, which, are actually pretty accurate. And they're actually less taxing than a mesh collider anyway. So that's what I did. All right, if we look back at this script here, we're going to say, hey, move to, and then the issue is our animator is, what animation is being done is going to be determined on the index value here. And so the reality is I thought I was going to use these Boolean values, and I made a big deal about creating them, but I don't think we're going to need them. And I'll show you. We can keep the is walking one. That one's fine. All right. But what we're going to do is we're going to create an integer value. We're just going to call this index. And so now, based off of this index value, is what's gonna happen. Is what animation is going to play. If that makes sense. And so every time we set this integer value, we need to update the animator value. If that makes sense. Oh man. It's Monday and I'm having a problem talking today. I don't know what's going on. But hopefully that makes sense. And so we can just type in set int, or actually, I thought I saw it. Yep. We could say set animator int. We're gonna do that on the actual father here. So we are gonna mark this one blue now. We're dragging in. The value is the index, and we're just, in this particular one, we're just setting it to 0. So that's exactly what we want to do. And then now when we cycle through this, see, we have an int add here. We're going to add 1 to it and then reset that value. And I need to do that here too. Now this one becomes blue as well. We're going to have a lot of blue here. but we're going to add one to the value and set that index, that animator into the index that we use inside the script. Man, it gets a little confusing, I guess, huh? But once we do this, once we get to our position, eventually we are going to want to do this int add in this pair here, and then we're going to go back to this weight. Yeah, I don't. I'm curious what your how you're gonna do that. Are you gonna? Are you doing that through like 3ds Max? Are you doing that through like Blender? I didn't mean to put you to work, Blender. Nice. Okay. Yeah, we can look into that. I think I have you on Discord, so I could send it to you directly through Discord if that works for you. All right. So yeah, eventually we're gonna want to. Okay, sweet. Yeah, I appreciate it. Putting you to work, man. Welcome to IBG, Icebreaker Games. Eventually we're gonna want to do this weight here. Yeah, I'm actually curious to see how that works out. So yeah, that'd be cool to see. It could be a good experiment. So we have. Eventually we're going to need to add to this index, so that way when we loop through to the position 2, it's not going to go from position 1 to position 2 and so on and so forth. We don't have that currently set up, but we will. But we're going to want to set up that animation first before we really truly do this. And so I'm trying to do this in a way that isn't too confusing. And this should be blue as well. But we're basically going to have this animation trigger here. And so inside here we had this cycle, and it was a trigger. And we have this index value here. What we would do is we would just set the animation trigger. We're going to specify, and we're doing it here. Do it cycle, and then based off of the index value, I'll go ahead and set this up here too. I'm not sure if it's a little redundant, I think, at this point, but for now I'm going to leave that in here. I kind of almost prefer it to be this location, but we'll see. We're basically going to set the index to 0 on the animator, and we're going to trigger that new animation. All right, so now if we take a look at this, we're going to have to fine-tune this a little bit. But from this idle animation, we're going to do a couple things based off of the index and this cycle. So the very first position was working on the Dream Machine here. So that's these two animations here. I'm going to go ahead and delete pretty much all of these transitions here. And eventually we're going to get to these. But for now, we're going to move these off to the side. So we're going to have a couple things. We're going to have to say, hey, cycle is a condition, but we also want index equal to 0. So if these two conditions happen at the exact same time, we can now move to this next animation. Now, we're gonna need something that says, hey, how do we get back to the idle, and then how do we know when we're done working on this? And that's kind of the big issue here. Is I want to say we can just, I think we don't necessarily need to go back to the idle animation. We'll have to see what this looks like. But I'm thinking we could probably just go like this. And we can say, you know, is walking is now true. So if we kind of preview this, you can see he's working, and then all of a sudden we're going to change it, say, hey, okay, now move to the next position. So now he's going to get up and he's going to go. I think that'll work. We could technically, like I said, go to the idle position first. But I don't know. I think that looks fine. All right, so let's preview this. See where we're at here. So here we go again. He's moving nice and slow. Dreading his working day. Gonna clip through this door. Like it's not even there. Maybe for testing we might increase this so we don't have to do this low speed over and over and over again. But let's see, once he gets there. There we go. We set his position, we set his rotation, and we went ahead and set the new animator info, and so now we're cycling in between these two. And so now this would be a great... Okay. Let me do that right now then. You can see that that's working pretty good. Real quick, Andre is volunteered to take a look at that door and see if we can troubleshoot why he's walking through there. Now, I don't think all my viewers need to do work for me, but hey, if you guys want to help out, by all means, you could temporarily be part of IBG and help us out. So Andre's volunteered, so I'm putting him to work. So let's take a look at that real fast. It's this door here. And then let's see if we can just do bunker wall, caution. Let's so the issue is we do have the prefab here. I don't think you're gonna want that. I think you're gonna want the model itself here. What do you think? You want the model, or can you work with the prefab? Either way, we can show this in the Explorer, and then here we go. Let's. All right, so there's the FBX. All right, so I am back. Sorry about that. Andre is going to take a look at that FBX in Blender and see what he can do with it. All right, thanks. Now, looking back at this, I think we were good, but now we want to continue the process and say, hey, now that after a certain amount of time, go to the next one. And so we're gonna finish this one, and we're gonna go now add to our index value. We're gonna go ahead and update the animator, and we do this int compare here. Because we need to know if we ever need to turn on, like in this particular case, we were turning on the hammer for that one concept. So the issue is we actually want to do this compare before we do the int add. And if it's how do we want to do this here? So we don't want to add and then say, okay, turn on the hammer, because now we're technically not on that animation state yet, and it'll turn on the hammer early. So yeah, actually I think this works. This will work fine. We're going to do an int compare. We're going to check what that is, what that index value is. If it is at 3, we'll go ahead and turn on the hammer itself. But if it's not, we're going to go ahead and do an int add here, and we're not going to go back to the move. We're going to go actually back to the random weight here. Now we're going to start the whole process over, and we're going to move to the next state, and so on and so forth. And as long as we set up these animations here accordingly, I think this AI script is going to work no matter how many positions that we add. So let's go ahead and fix this. So we're looking at position 2 now, which was the sleeping, this one here. Now, this one's going to be a little interesting, and it's going to be a little rough at first, but we will fine-tune it eventually, I promise. But notice he's going to move to the bed, and then he's going to magically kind of like teleport. Or he's going to probably walk through the bed. But he's going to magically be in that sleep position. We have no nice transition from a walk to let me slowly get onto the bed, crawl into position, and then lay down. So it's gonna look a little wonky, but I promise, like I said, we'll get there, and it'll look good eventually. So, but we do need this similar concept with this transition from the idle. We're gonna say, just like this one, we're gonna say, hey, not only does a cycle trigger have to be there, but we need the index value now to be equal to 1. And then we also need the transitions to the walking. And so now here is the animation. We should be able to play test this real quick. I'll go to the scene view though. And let's just, if we adjust the speed here, you can see we can do that live. That'll make it a little bit quicker here. So he's gonna come over here, he's gonna do this. Oh. That wasn't appropriate. he did the sleep animation here. Something's not right here. Just double check this. This one equals 1. This one equals 0. And so we gotta really know when we are doing that animation here. So I'm gonna drag Playmaker off into my other monitor here. Sorry you guys can't see this, but I'm just taking a look and I'm watching what he's doing. So right now he is moving to that position. If we look at our index value, it is currently at 0, which is fine. That's exactly what we need it to be at. If I follow him real quick, I'm gonna try to pause it right there. So here is when he tries to do the animation, but he's doing the wrong one. And you can see he was doing the sleeping, and he did the idle here. But I think we're gonna create another weight. Drag this back over here. Before we add to this integer value here. Let's just say 1 to 2. Of course, these values are gonna be they're gonna be higher when we do this for real. We're not gonna just leave him working on the dream machine for a matter of seconds. I mean, he might work on that for 30 seconds to maybe even do a full minute. We don't want him to just constantly cycling through these locations. We want him kind of sitting there for a while. I mean, in reality, he could be working on the dream machine for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. I mean, who knows? Of course, that's a little bit long in game time, but we're going to definitely do more than just 1 to 2 seconds. So we're going to have these go here and then have this one go to. And let's take a look at this. And I will go ahead and speed him up. All right, there we go. That looked better. Now he did that for 1 to 2 seconds randomly. Now he's moving back to the bed, and you'll see what I mean now, where he he tries to sleep. The position is inside the bed, but because the bed is navigation static, and has colliders as well, he wasn't able to magically teleport to where he needed to go. I'm gonna go ahead and uncheck that. We'll see how that changes. And for now, let's find him again. Get all that. Still speed 4. Really get him going. I'm going pretty quick here. There we go. Now he's moving quick. Let's see if he can make it to the bed. Nope. Let's take a look. Try that again. Speed 5. But fast. Nope, he still doesn't want to go there. And just to verify, the position here is indeed right there. I think part of the issue is the colliders themselves here, and his capsule collider. We could try to increase the step up height in order to equal the bed's height. It could be dangerous because then he could potentially crawl up on almost anything to try to get from one location to another. Oh man, but no, that's you can always try it. So it was originally point 4. Look at that. See all our new heights there. You can almost step on top of this this dresser. And then we'll mark this one navigation static again. And rebake it. Now he can get on top of the bed. Take a look. First, we'll speed him up here again. Where's that? I wonder what that looks like over here. Okay, so technically he could have walked up onto the bar stool. He's still not going over into the... You know, it's weird that he would clip through the door, not clip through the... I want to test, see what this looks like without his capsule collider. We're up to speed 6, guys. Really want to see him quick. I'm almost wondering we might be able to cheat the system a little. And what I mean by that is before he gets to that location, we might be able to say, hey, turn off the nav mesh agent and the capsule collider. So that way we can magically teleport you. Now, saying that, this isn't ideal by any means. It may be a solution for now, but it may be a solution that we have to fix eventually. Because like I said, we're gonna want some transitional animations from him walking to getting into bed. So I'm a little hesitant doing that right now. But man, I just hate seeing him floating above the bed like that. So we have this set position, that animation thing. We would technically need to do another int compare first. Right about here, and we would now compare this to index 1. We're saying, hey, if you're going to this position, the bed position, then you need to do something. If it's less than or greater than, we can just go ahead and go off to this set rotation. But if it's equal, then we may need to do this other state where we now turn off his mesh collider, or sorry, his nav mesh and his capsule collider. And so we'd have it like this, but we're also going to need to turn this back on once he gets moving again. Which is later in this, after this wait time. Right before this move to state. I'm gonna call this activate nav, and then in this state we can just copy it over and just call it deactivate nav. Oh man, if my middle mouse button is going out or what? So this is another blue reference here. Come on. We're running out of time, so I'm trying to hurry. And we'll add a finished here. So now he's deactivated. And then we would have him set that position and rotation and the appropriate trigger. So this could work. We'll take a look. Look at scene view. Let's speed him up to speed 7 now. Look. I can follow him fast enough. Good. So now he's going over here. And then bam. That's perfect. Now he's doing laundry. But that's just because we haven't set it up past the bed, but that you can see. I mean, if I slowed it down, maybe we could have saw that a little bit better. But you can see I'm kind of manipulating the system a little bit. So we're basically saying, hey, don't act like a nav mesh right now, because I'm gonna put you in a place that you're not normally supposed to go. This probably happens all the time, to be honest, in video games. I think there are times where you're going to say, hey, don't look at where you can go, because I need you to go here regardless. Of course, we'll clean up this Playmaker script here as soon as we decide that this is good to go. Because we may need some other concepts here still. But moving right along, and I'll try to hurry this up, we're now going to go to chair 1. Chair 1 is probably going to be very similar to the bed concept, but we'll see. And so I think this sitting animation was the one we wanted here. And once we create this transition, you can preview that. I'm pretty sure, yep, that was just the standard like sit down in the chair one at the radio. And so what we'll do is exactly the same. We're gonna have the two different conditions. One's a cycle and one's the index, but now we are on index 2, I believe. And then we'll have another one that goes to walk low. And so we'll do is walking. So now this is one that's going to be very similar to that sleeping concept here. And so we got that. Both exit times are turned off. That's good. And so that should work. Let's take a look. Go to the scene view. We're moving along the way. Andre thinks he's done. Maybe we could test that out before we end the stream today. Let's speed this up. Let's do 5. I'm gonna slow it down just for this part so you can see kind of what this looks like for the bed. It's like I warned you guys, it's gonna be a little janky because we don't have that transition animation where it gets into bed. You can see gets there and then bam, he magically falls into the bed. But now is where he's supposed to be going to this chair all the way over here, and he's not. He went to the laundry. He got into it. Yeah, I hope you didn't break anything, Andre. But yeah, I would definitely let you know. And then and I'll save it as a different version so that way we'll have the Andre version and then the Synthi Studios version. And if you do a really good job, maybe we should hit up Synthi and see fix all of their colliders for them. So the issue is okay. So now he for some reason he was trying to go to position 3, and either he didn't find where that was, or he yeah, that'd be a pretty good job, right? Either he didn't find that new position, or he got lazy and decided he's going to sit in the laundry instead of going all the way to the gym. And so I don't know. We'll take a look at it maybe in slow motion here, because you can see he's moving to position 1 just fine. And once again, I'm going to drag this off into my other screen. I apologize. I kind of want to watch this live, and I may also do this really slow too, just so I can really see what's going on here. So now he's moving to the next position, which is properly targeted as the position 2 sleeping. We saw that just fine. Here he goes, cutting through the door again. And then once he gets to this bed, I like how he always goes on the left side of the bed. Alright, we're getting close. Now I'm gonna wait here. So it does say he's moving to, let's drag this over here. And there's another way to do this, guys. You don't have to do it right here. You can actually right click on these and create toggle breakpoint. So breakpoint's really nice. It just pauses or pulls you out of the game in Playmaker once you get to a certain state. It really helps with like testing purposes. But you can see here he is moving to this position 3 chair. And just to verify, this is where the position is at. And if we want to look at the navigation, you can see we do have a path here. But for some reason, the path must be too long. And he's saying, hey, I give up. I'm not going to make it that far. Because all of a sudden he wants to I just want to make sure. Yeah, I mean our offset is 0. I mean, everything should be potentially working. We go back to our scene view. He's heading towards the chair, but eventually he's like, hey, I'm not going to make it. Too far away, and he gives up. Which is weird that he would do that for the chair, but not do that for the Dream Machine. Like, that was actually pretty far away for him as well. And that was him moving to to these other spots. But ultimately, so we're out of time, unfortunately. But you can see we're making progress. He is now moving, navigating between spots. We will have to fine tune probably some of his either pathfinding or some of his logic there to say, hey, you gotta be able to make it over into this room here. We'll have to fine tune that. Of course, we are already gonna fine tune some animations, and I do want to test just real quick what Andre here got for us. I'm gonna go ahead and download that, and we're gonna drag that into the scene here. And I guess it doesn't necessarily matter where I put this for now. I'm gonna go ahead and just drag it into prefabs here. Then I guess technically if this works, we would apply it to either one here. Take a look here. Definitely the sizing is different. Try that again. Sizing is different, but that's not too much of an issue here, because we can adjust that on the fly. Of course, we do want this material applied to it as well. And we are going to want this navigation static as well. So let's shrink it down. I think I went a little too far. Right. Go ahead and toggle this other one off for now. Let's open this door up here. All right, I see you got the collision and the door itself. That's fine. We could technically I think that's gonna work. Oh wait. Somehow the pivot got messed up on the door too. I don't know if you're watching this, Andre. I think sure how that works. You got the collision on a different layer, but it doesn't actually have any colliders there. There's actually no colliders here either. I don't think that's gonna work. Yeah, you can. I can just walk right through. So a couple things. So that's That's what I was wondering, because when you deal with a model, the model is usually, I know I did some of that stuff for CryEngine. I was able to, when I worked on CryEngine, I was able to add the colliders into the FBX basically, and CryEngine, it was able to pull those in and determine like, yeah, that's the way I like it. Yeah. So, but with Unity, it's a little different. And so you're saying this one wouldn't have a mesh render, and this one should technically have a mesh collider here. And so if we take a look at this, that does look, it does look really good. And then, even if we did convex, looks good. So really, it would just be probably the size of the door. We'd have to have it be the same scale that it was, and then the pivot of the door would need to be adjusted as well. And then I want to say I can just pop that in like that. It would be pretty much exactly the same as we would before. So yeah, I appreciate the help. We're running out of time. We're actually over time. Yeah, I wonder what that is. Maybe they changed the size on the prefab and not the actual model itself. So maybe you don't have to change that. And I technically didn't create a new prefab. I just dragged your model right into the scene. So. But then the question is, and we can test this tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow again. But then the question would be, how does this work? How's this gonna look? As far as the navigation part of it goes. With the collider, the mesh collider, now you can see it works with me. I didn't put one on the door, by the way. But I'm curious if I like duplicate this, move it over here. And I know we're over time here, guys. I know, but we do this real fast. And I go ahead and disable this other door. Let's just go ahead and remake it real fast. Let's see what happens when the father tries to go through there. Looks like he's still gonna try to cut through. Yeah. I'm not. So ultimately, that's the issue we're really having is he's still cutting through that mesh collider there. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'm gonna call it quits for now. I appreciate the help, Andre. I really do. I'll take a look at that, and then we'll definitely I'll get that into the project right away tomorrow, and we'll see if that fixes the issue. If not, those mesh colliders are way more accurate than the box colliders, so maybe we'll just roll with that regardless if the door animation is fixed. But regardless, I definitely appreciate it. And appreciate everybody here today. And thanks again, and I will see you guys next time. You guys have a good day.